Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. And hey, Pete,
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
I'm good. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, indeed. Happy Halloween.
You excited? You off trick or treating later?
I don't think we're gonna do. So I'm at that age where the teenagers are just sort of, it's just not as cool. So
Yeah, and that awkward age where they want to go to a Halloween party, but like they're still probably too young for Halloween, like for parties like that. If that makes sense.
yeah, well, it's like I think they'd be happy with the candy, but they can't be fussed to actually put on the fancy dress. So yeah. So I
Yeah,
think we'll
makes
put out a pumpkin and have some candy and welcome folks to the door. I didn't even get out our Christmas decorations. We're like up to our eyes in house projects and just it didn't happen this year.
I uh, I mean, I need to go buy some sweets if we're going to be doing it. We live on like an estate where people are pretty good at like not knocking if you haven't got decorations up, and
Okay.
I just don't have decorations up because I was saying to I was on a call with Anila O'Sullivan earlier, who I'm sure you know, one of the Irish Dreaming
I don't
organizers,
think I've met her
and
yet. I don't think I've met
you've
her. So
never met Anila. Well, so we were having a chat earlier on, and I was just saying that. I don't think I've really bothered doing Halloween or dressing up much since like I was at university as a student when it's just an excuse really for another excuse to go out drinking. But for a middle aged man, I don't think that's appropriate.
yeah, so I was kind of that annoying American uh guy in the neighborhood a few years ago when my kids were younger, and I would just knock on everybody's door. It's like if they didn't answer, that was fine.
Yeah,
But this poor woman once, she's like, I don't know, it's like she wanted to give us I forget what it was. It's like, "Do you want a biscuit?"
yeah,
It was she
unbelievable.
was a bit I think a bit, she was very gracious in a way I think only, uh, a sort of late middle age, possibly, senior citizen, English, motherly type could be,
Yeah,
right? A grandmotherly type.
yes.
She took it very well, but, like, she was clearly caught flat-footed by me deigning to knock on her door and say trick or treat with my toddler at the time, whatever it was, so
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been a few weeks since we've caught up. Like, in fact, I'm trying to think if we've in fact spoken at least live on air in
not since
we
before
haven't spoken live on
Dreamforce.
so since we haven't spoken live on air this month. Like we are
Uh,
literally just
yeah, you're right.
getting a stream in October just to kind of like check the box and
That's
say we've done
right,
it
yeah,
for
because
the
I
last
I went off to California on the 4th, right? So,
yeah.
we didn't do
Was there
one that
something going on in San Francisco this past month?
um,
Anything?
yeah, what's it called? It's a thing, like,
I mean,
people
it's
get
probably been
together.
rebranded as Agent Force something,
Yeah,
whatever it is. But yeah,
it's right. It's gotta do some gotta have to it's has to be something to do with AI, but,
it has. Yes. So yeah, so you had a little personal trip, and then
and
we're
then
off in
Dreamforce,
San Francisco
yeah.
for Dreamforce. So
I
so
kind of did
tell us
my
about it.
own road to Dreamforce, if you will.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that?
I do.
Um,
I do.
like Amber, Brad Gross, Tom Wong, like a few other people, like, 'cause Tom Wong and a bunch of people from the community, like, didn't they like drive all the way across country to like get to San
Yeah.
Francisco for
Wasn't
Dreamforce?
it? Wasn't that how Zachary Jeans got introduced to Salesforce, if I recall?
Is that how? I don't know
I believe
his
so.
I don't know the
I
Zachary
believe
Jeans origin story.
I believe the Zachary Jeans origin story is that yeah, he was I think he's someone's cousin or something, and actually was the one drove them across or did a bunch of the because he used to be
Oh,
a long haul trucker.
but I had
So
no
yeah,
idea.
and he heard all the amazing things about this thing called Salesforce, as it was known back then. Um, and yeah,
Well,
and yeah,
he was always a bit like he seemed like a really, like, lovely guy, had interesting things to say, but, like, did he ever actually do anything with Salesforce? Like, he seemed to like
I think he
Was
definitely more focused on like marketing and
right.
because I came across him in my professional life, and
Okay.
his book was definitely more like marketing was where he saw himself fit was marketing and kind of like community engagement and that side of things. So, um,
Right.
I
But
mean, truth be told,
he
he was the
didn't
sort of
work for
person. He didn't work for. I think he worked for a couple of partners briefly, but he
okay,
was the
kind of
sort of person
doing
that, truth be told, would have been like probably good at some sort of evangelism role if there
mhm,
was if there was a community evangelism kind of role that and when I say that didn't require you to know Salesforce, what I mean by that was like you obviously had to know a fair amount of technical stuff to be a
right.
developer evangelist and things like that. But Road to Dreamforce. Anyway, so you did your own Road to Dreamforce. Just going to say hello to everyone joining us.
Oh, yeah, by all
Welcome.
means, yeah.
Say hello. Welcome to the stream. Good to
Yeah.
see you all again. Please drop us a little wave, say hello, let us know where you're watching from, and if you have done anything special for Halloween, or if you're at Dreamforce as well.
Oh, there
Peter,
we go, yeah.
so Pete, you did your road to Dreamforce, and then you were actually at Dreamforce. So how was it? Both because obviously this was your first year there with the Salesforce Ben team, which I imagine.
It was
Have
fun.
you actually been?
We had a great
Have you
time.
have you been to Dreamforce and not been working ever? Because like I feel that you've
Well, I
been
was working.
obviously.
I
Well,
worked my
that's
butt off this Dreamforce.
no, but I think I'm not saying you weren't. What I'm getting at is I've been to Dreamforce before on
Yeah,
my own steam,
yeah,
which was a completely different experience to when I've been working there for a partner and when I've been going. Events are different when you're attending versus when you're working it.
right, right.
Obviously, you would have, I believe, at some point you were involved in some small way in Dreamforce's organization when you were a developer evangelist. At some small, I think you were probably involved in like choosing the color of the cups or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but other than that, like nothing else to do with it. But have you actually been have you been in a capacity that has allowed you to enjoy it as an attendee only? I suppose.
no. Uh, well, I mean, yes and no. So here's the thing, like, and I imagine it's similar with the team today, although I felt really I was really feeling for them because they're really short staffed. There's a couple of people out on family leave, like with young children. There was one person who got waylaid with a family concern that stopped them from attending. And so I think the team was very much a skeleton crew this time compared to what we always had. Um, yeah, I mean, for our experience with Dreamforce, I'll just make it mine. My experience with Dreamforce was um, that the hardest part was the couple of months prep before, where slowly and gradually, as imagine yourself like circling the outer rim of a whirlpool, or where it's like, it just more and more you get sucked in by the current of what's going on and what you need to be involved in. And you try and have a uh you try and be doing the work of developer relations, where you're out trying to be part of the community, connect with them, write content, build solutions, like those sorts of things. And then slowly, like more and more of that effort and time gets focused on making the event happen. So, I mean, and especially I would say from the COVID years on, because
Mm.
COVID was very different. We went from having these like let's call them real events to basically television productions, and we had to pivot to learn how to become basically a TV production company in order to make those events happen, which is a whole different set of problems and
Mm.
difficulties and concerns about if you think about what it takes to prepare a session that you're going to deliver live at a conference, you do some prep, like
Mm.
you have to make sure that you're going to be spot on when you get there and you do it, and then you do
Yeah,
it and the
so
chips fall.
you've
Right.
evidently never been to one of my talks if you think that they're practiced and come out spot on the day.
Well, I mean, okay, like
Yeah.
there's varying degrees of what preparation looks like depending on what your experience is.
No, I'm
Yeah,
only
like
messing. But yeah.
I would be lying if I said I've never found myself, uh, making tweaks to my presentation, the hour before my presentation. I've definitely done that. And like I know I've heard of certain members of the community here in the UK that are fabled for basically preparing their talk like either the night before or the day before. So like yeah, we all know that happens. But but the point is like you do it and then you do the prep, then you have the session and like, you deliver the session. Nobody can go back and
Mm,
remix or re-edit or tell you to re-record. But the thing is like when you're doing a TV production and what you want is good production values, then you start getting into the realm of, well, let's actually go and record the demo. We're not going to do a live demo. We're going to record it. It'll be the real thing. It's not going to be trumped up, but it's still going to be a recorded version of the demo. And then you can get very, very particular about making sure that that recorded version of the demo looks really good because like any sort of random mouse wiggles that you might not even notice if you're in a session where you're halfway back in a big room and the big screen is up in the front and maybe they wiggle their mouse a little bit, you don't notice because maybe you're not even looking at them, you're looking at, or maybe not looking at the screen, you're looking at them for a moment, right?
mm.
When all you're looking at is your computer screen and the demo is like filled with little mouse wiggles, you have to clean those up and get rid of them. And so like you do it and then like, oh no, there's a little mouse wiggle there, re-record that. So like there was a lot of effort put into prepping it. And when we pivoted back to in person, like some of that sensibility kind of bled over into in person real events again. I don't know. Like I got to the point where I really dreaded the couple of months lead up to events for what it would mean for me, for my quality of life, for my team. And part of that too was me being in the UK where I was working with a lot of people that were in the States.
Yeah.
So I'd get some work done, be ready to like sign off my day and maybe like go do some stuff with my family. And like people would wake up in California and it's like boom, influx of like Slack messages, email messages that like right now have to deal with this. So I came to really, really hate the prep for Dreamforce. I would just
So
say.
is this actually your Salesforce? Like, is this the first scary slash horror story we have today, which is just
Probably, yeah. Like
the tale of
Peter's
preparing
like
for?
Halloween story for Salesforce is, let's just say like TDX prep 2022, Dreamforce prep 2022. Like yeah, I had yeah, there was a lot of other stuff going on that
Mm,
year. Not the least of which was like shattering my knee. Like,
yes, you had a few things, didn't you?
there's a couple of other like major family things going on as well for me that year. So like, yeah, those like really, and that was the thing more than anything as I was reflecting, like what was different about this Dreamforce? Well, like the 2 months before, like weren't an absolute slog. Um, and I have to say, like the team that we were working for Salesforce Ben, like everybody who I was working for, so awesome. And yeah, have to call out Liz, who's our event manager. She like totally killed it. I mean, the whole
Nice.
team, you don't get something like what we did. So what did Salesforce Ben do? We had an experience off campus. It was about a block away from Moscone, and we had a number of about 10, I think, sponsors uh, who were participating with us in that. That included a number of like live talks and events. I actually chaired 4 different panels. The my favorite of which was actually having Charlie Isaacs and Vala Afshar on a panel
Okay,
where we
cool.
just kind of like vamping on like what's what with technology today. So that was amazing. Also had the other really memorable one was with Copado about the idea of like, how do you get teams of combined developers and admins working most efficiently together. They had this idea. There's a term that they use of a fusion team. Like I almost see it as like, it's like the corollary of DevOps, where DevOps was about getting two groups of people with different priorities, developers in an agile world trying to deliver more features, ops trying to reduce errors, and one of the best way to do that is to reduce the number of changes being made to an environment, right? How do you get those two groups working well together? Like that was the problem of DevOps. I think there's a similar relationship
Mm.
between admins and developers where, different, it's not exactly the same, but there are different priorities, different terminology, language, thinking, backgrounds. Like, so I think there's kind of a, there's that was a really interesting session, like exploring with this was the head of product for Capado, and one of their customers, head of technology, head of Salesforce technology, talking about like how do you get the most out of teams with blended skills like that. That was really good, really cool.
Nice. Very cool. So,
Yeah.
what did you? Is there one key? Because again, I had some personal stuff going on, so a lot of Dreamforce kind of passed me by in the milieu of things.
Yeah.
So, if there's one thing you had to take away from Dreamforce to share, what would you? That isn't the word Agent Force. What would it? What would it be?
Yeah, so I think everybody, like literally everyone who touches a Salesforce org should be, in the next 6 months should invest some time and energy in getting to know Scale Center.
Oh, Scale Center. Is that one of the? Is so Scale Center? Is that the testing?
Observability. Yeah,
Is
so
that
it
not?
includes Apex Guru, but it also is observability and metrics about org performance. This used to be a unlimited edition only feature.
Oh, that was my
You
question.
couldn't, I don't think you could even buy into it really. You had to have unlimited edition. And they've
Okay.
now made it available to every paid customer org.
Oh, okay.
So, which is huge. I mean, like, you know, you want to find out like what the performance problem is. Where do you have like bad apex patterns? I mean, I do wonder if it's going to kind of hurt a little bit of the like some of the revenue stream for some of the like DevOps and kind of application lifecycle management partners out there, because some of what they were trying to provide
Mm.
was along the lines of what Scale Center does, but here like you're going to get it right from Salesforce. Honestly, I sat with oh, I'm trying to remember his surname, but Anand is the name of the one of the product folks for Scale Center. He sat with me for like 20 minutes walking through all the different features, which I can't even name all of them, but like one of the things I got on my short list of things to do is to take my platform parallel platform events stress test like setup that I have, get that into an org with Scale Center and just like hammer at it and see
Yeah.
how I can pull out like interesting data of a very like high capacity platform event situation like using Scale Center. So yeah, I would say like the one thing product wise for those of us who are working in and around Salesforce implementations, owning Salesforce orgs, if you're an admin, developer, architect, um, Scale Center, it should be part of every org's like toolkit now. So I'd say that's number one.
Interesting. Because I'm just looking at the documentation, and it still says only UE signature and special scale test customers. So I imagine that's
Interesting.
just out of the
I mean,
because
it's
that
supposed to. It's supposed to be. I could double check. I thought it was winter 26, but maybe it's coming in spring 26.
Yeah, I'd be
Um,
interested because I like the idea of scale center. I obviously because I'm one of those people. I don't have many spare unlimited edition orgs just kicking around,
yeah,
just to try it
yeah.
out in. So I haven't really played with it. The other thing I find interesting with some of these things is, and this is a really kind of topic we'll try and avoid diving too deep into here, but it's the definition of best practices. And what I mean by that is, so recently there was the Agent Force Vibes video that came out, right?
Mhm.
And this is a really good example to me. I want to start off here by saying I am not slating Agent Force Vibes, um,
That's okay.
but what
I
was
think there's a bunch of other people doing it for you.
yeah, I mean, there's a load of people like yeah. I mean, I've messaged PM about like some stuff on it. Like, it's I'm not sat here slagging it
Mhm.
off. But what I'm trying to say is there was an interesting thing where when you ran it, and I in fact did this when I was helping someone the other day do something in their org that they weren't paying me to do, and they were using it to build a PDF in Salesforce. So Visualforce PDF to do something simple. I was helping show them how to do it, just to get up and running. And what was really interesting is it was using like version 59 of the API, not version 64, which we're on.
Mhm.
And B, there's lots of examples I've seen of it where it does things where I'm like, you're not wrong, but are you doing this in the best way possible? And I think that this is the really interesting. So like this thing wrote its own custom controller. It was doing a
Right.
Visual Force PDF where it could just use the standard controller. It was just
Mhm.
using an object and its children, so it could have iterated over them and done that. It could have done all these things standard wise. But because I was helping this person vibe code, I'm like, I'm not touching it. I'm not gonna go away and tell agents like not because it worked. And
Mhm.
that's fine. And this person was like, listen,
Yeah.
it's a PDF that gets generated once every quarter. It doesn't need to look good. It doesn't need to, it just needs to get sent over to someone. But like with the Agent Force Vibes demo, there was also a thing on that where it created an Apex controller for retrieving data rather than using like the UI record API or the GraphQL options. And again, it's not wrong. It's just not. Is it optimal? And I think
Right.
there's this really interesting conversation, and love to see with Scale Center because I find the Apex PMD rules sometimes I'm like, well, yeah, kind of you're not wrong, but also like I'm ignoring you because I don't think you're right. Like, and it's
It's I mean, a lot of that is it's like you know, uh,
guidelines.
there are things that are just judgment calls, right? Whereas if you have, like, data that can tell you how that actually is gonna work, because, like, once if you're using it, you can also use it, like, in a full copy sandbox as well,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not every customer that's gonna have that, but, like, if you are that size of customer that you're maybe building something where that kind of performance at scale will matter, you probably will have a full copy sandbox and you will be able to do some early testing before deploying to production. I mean, you can vet
Yeah.
it. Like, is it better
Yeah.
to do the access via Apex? Is that maybe that's faster, even though I could use the wire adapter. I mean, I don't know if that
Well,
would really be true. I'm not sure it would, but just
I think
just saying.
no, what I also think is quite interesting with it though is that there's also this thing of with all of these best practices and what people consider best or not best. It's that thing you and I have come back to multiple times of pragmatism, as in what is the optimal solution for this customer in this situation to get things done.
Yeah.
Like as I said, that Visual Force PDF, yes, I could have gone away and rewritten it, but it wasn't for me. It's not an org I have legal access to go in and do any changes on or things like that. This person was just like, have I set this up properly to do this? So there's
Yes,
all
you
of that stuff.
have. Like, that's all you need to
Yeah,
say.
like well, yeah, and like they were more just checking like because they'd never used Code Builder before. So
Right.
this was an admin who was trying to say like, I know I can do this, but I don't know any Apex. And there is a great
Mhm.
question that you say, well, should they be doing it? But equally, like, well, they have the tools there. Why shouldn't they? Like
Right.
and but I think that the really interesting question I have about kind of the best practice stuff with a lot of this is you're just like, what is best practice? And I have this pitch that if Salesforce want to be more successful with vibe coding,
Mhm.
AI based coding, they should only do a release once a year.
Oh, say more
I
about that.
I so taking my example from earlier on of like so the API version is a big one. The API version changes 3 times a year. Like the documentation therefore gets updated all the time. There's things that are in beta, not in beta. There's things that are changing. So first of all, like having and let's be clear, the AI training model isn't re-ingesting everything every 4 months. So like there's a big piece of that there about the training part of it. And if you do you ever watch the Code Report,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
Fireship, brilliant YouTube channel. Go and watch it.
No,
Like
I've
he
not
does
seen
some
that.
really. But his way of testing LLMs is to use Svelte, and one of the newer editions of Svelte has a thing called runes in it. And so he's
Okay.
like, I want to test how good it is because it's the way that Svelte are saying you should do this. It's
Right.
about 6 to 12 months old now, but still a lot of the LLMs because of their
Mhm.
training data. It's all historically, kind of not using that. And so I
Right.
think that I have this view that if Salesforce released once a year, they could spend a lot of time focused on training their AI models on that release and making sure that everyone was using the latest version of things and understood it, rather than making changes 3 times a year and it not being clear. And they should also, I mean, there's also a big piece where they could go away and like focus on good patterns around things like should you use GraphQL or the Lightning UI Record API or an Apex controller? And the answer is it depends, granted, but like when and how and who. But like I think that the kind of Salesforce's rate of change is almost its biggest problem now, in that it is very hard for an LLM to stay focused on, and especially where Apex is not as popular a language as say like Java or JavaScript.
Yeah. So a couple things about that. I think it's a really accurate and apt observation, and I do think that they need something. Where I think they're trying to answer some of the and I went to Dreamforce. I was like, I'm
Mm,
here. They have some hands-on experiences doing vibe coding. Like, I'm going to use Agent Force vibes while I'm there. So I
yeah,
did that. Right. But like that's all I've done. I've not picked it up since then, just been a bit busy. Like, like I just not managed to. But what I did pick up from it is, the case for like, is everything up to date and current? I think that is what they would want the MCP servers and services to be doing in that case. So as long as your MCP server to your org is set up, then it, and using the right API, presumably, like that would potentially impact it, then you should get an accurate picture of that. And then anything that are best practices should be there's a set of rules files that are in Markdown that you essentially need to put into place. And so, again, this isn't Salesforce maintaining it, but I think they have some default ones. And so like each release, as long as, it's like, the release used to be, we need some software, we need some documentation for the software. And now it's like, we need some software, we need some documentation for the software for people, and we need some documentation for software for the agents that the people are going to be using as well. And so I think like some of
but
those
on the
best
so
practices would be able to be fine tuned in those files.
yeah, no, and yeah, let's be clear. A lot of this is going to be down to agent models and having all those fancy things. I think with the MCP server, though, my understanding is the MCP server is the SFCLI one, and
Mhm.
kind of It's not documentation. It's not like the Apex language,
No.
or do you see what I'm getting at? So like,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
my concern with this is that,
But that's again, like that's where those markdown files should hopefully like.
yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with you. It's just that I mean, I don't know if you saw that Andy Fawcett posted out something last week or so about making it easier to deal with Salesforce's
Oh,
documentation in.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that I think is a serious problem that they're like
Yeah,
they invested a huge amount of money and time in rebuilding all the developer docs. And this was 2021
and now it's not
moving
readable. Why?
into 2022, right? So well before any of us knew that this whole thing was going to blow up in autumn of 2022. And yeah, like that all I think we launched that like around January of 2022. And like a lot of it is like I could totally see how that could cause problems and make it harder for agents to actually use the human focused docs.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, so we
There was
could
one
go
other
on.
thing I wanted to say
Go
about
on.
Dreamforce.
No, go
So
for it.
because
Go for it.
so I brought up a product thing, Scale Center, go use it.
Mhm.
100%. Oops. There was a quote. So true to the core was spicy. It was good, especially like the
I've,
first half. The second half got about a lot more sort of product focus, and that's great. People should be doing asking those questions too. But obviously, the very passionate questions are often about community and how community feel like Salesforce are doing.
mhm.
And there was one guy, so I might mispronounce his surname, but Alon Weissman, I want to say his name is, and he brought up like you know he was very fair because he said the agent stuff is super cool and we see why it's needed. We just need more of the other stuff. Like that was basically
Mm.
the gist of it. And the comments generally were fairly appeasing. And it's like, okay, we'll try and do better next time, that kind of stuff. And what was great is the head of product, this guy named Steve Fisher, he like right as they were like as they thought it was all wrapped up with this guy, he's like, I got a different take on this. And it was like I think it's he spoke for about 5 minutes just on why it is Salesforce is investing the time and energy into um, into agents. I mean, and I think it was the most candid and nothing that we don't know, right? Because very clearly Salesforce has gone all in on AI agents and all that kind of stuff. But
Really, they've never mentioned it. It's
but to have the head of product,
yeah.
like he laid down some really interesting information that I think is a peek into let's call it the product philosophy right now of Salesforce and how they are choosing what they're choosing to do and what they're not choosing to do. And so to instead of, because we normally get the marketing version of that, or we have
Mhm.
to read the tea leaves around the marketing message and then come to the conclusion. To have the head of product just basically say like, yeah, like we have totally invested in this. Here's why. Here's what it's costing us, and we're going to keep doing it. I think
Mm.
was a very nice, candid approach. But in the middle of that, he had this one sentence that I don't know. Like sometimes I seize on like one thing that somebody says, and maybe I read too much into it. But I'm going to read it because I had to capture it. These AI things, they don't always exactly work the way that you think they're gonna work. That's the lesson we've been learning and relearning and relearning, especially the last year. And I
Mm.
take that in the context of, it's interesting because you see Mark Benioff go out and he'll like crow about how
Yeah.
successful their agents are. We get 93% success rate. Like, where else in enterprise software in history has like 93% like good been okay? Like, yeah, my general ledger, it it reconciles itself 93% of the time. That's going to go really well with your tax authority,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like 93% has never been an acceptable success rate in enterprise software. And somehow, like, because it's agents, like, we're supposed to believe that 93% is great, right? But like to have again, like the chief of product go like, I mean, basically say like, this has been really hard. Like,
Mm.
we're struggling to get this thing to work in a way that like I to me, it sounds like he's saying we've really struggled to get this to work well enough that we can actually sell it as enterprise software. I mean, that's what it kind of sounded like to me. But again, maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I think no. I definitely think there's a. I love like I love the idea of AI. Like I have a book on my shelf. So I'm going to get this book. Uh, I bought this. This was my first book I ever bought after I graduated university, and it is
Nice.
Introduction to Neural Networks for C Sharp. This
Wow,
book was
it's
published.
like so old that it's actually C sharp doing it. It wasn't even Python.
Yeah, I know. Like this is a trying to find like when it says it was first published. Copyright 2008, right?
Yeah.
So like I was
And that was like back when neural networks were not cool. They were
yeah.
totally not cool in 2008.
I'm not cool, mate. I don't know if you noticed this, but so I genuinely was sat there working away writing neural networks in the 2008 sort of time. I did a Stanford course with Andrew Ng back in 2015. In fact, well, not long before I am holding on to this damn record like for life. I was the first person to talk about AI at Dreamforce. I spoke about building a machine learning model in Apex at Dreamforce in 2015, 17,
I
something like that.
think I kind of remember that talk. I mean,
Yeah,
not that
I
I
got.
went to it, but I was like I was on the team that was curating those
Yeah,
that
you'd probably
track.
been reviewing it and been like,
I remember I know I remember seeing that talk come through. So yeah.
so I have done and I've done numerous talks at different things on AI. I love AI. I'm a nerd who enjoys the nerding out how it works. Had I not become a developer, I was going to go do a theoretical and computational neuroscience degree as my second degree to go and start working on quantum computational neuroscience. That was genuinely
Wow.
where I was planning on going with my life. Um,
And here
I
you are writing Apex
yeah,
classes.
here I am on this stream talking absolute
Oh, how the
nonsense with you.
mighty have fallen.
But like, so I like, I am so into it. But there's this the thing for me that is always the difficult part of this is number one is as you say it's that success level. Like if my Apex code ran right 93% of the time, I'd still be being asked to fix the thing. Like no one's gonna sit there and be like, "Listen, Paul, it's like my product that sends like SMS and Viber and WhatsApp messages. If it only sent 93% of the messages that you requested it send, my customers would ask for their money back. Like that's if you it doesn't work like that.
No.
So there is that perspective. But the thing for me is that it's definitely good. And you and I were saying this before, kind of beforehand before this kind of went live. My concern is that one of the things I loved about Salesforce was I thought they pushed the boundaries and did great innovation, but they had a spread portfolio. When I started doing Salesforce, and like when you and I first started doing Salesforce around the same sort of time, there was Sales Cloud, there was Service Cloud, you had Apex and Visual Force, and that was it. pretty much that was it. There was sites, I think, were fairly new at the time.
Yeah,
We
Remedy
then,
Force. I mean, there were all these partnerships, right? So
yeah, there were partners out there. Like, yeah, I started working for one of the big partners. I was at Financial Force. That was a
yeah.
big thing, having an accounting platform on there. And then what Salesforce did really well was they sort of like tested their way out into it.
Mhm.
And so that might be an acquisition like Marketing Cloud, and that might be a growth thing like, Experiences was an acquisition of site.com. And, but they slowly built out that thing, but they weren't doing one thing.
Mhm.
They were realizing the kind of connected pieces in it and making kind of the way I said this earlier on was they'd kind of go and plant a flag on a lawn somewhere and say, this is our spot on this. We're not necessarily saying we're going to stay here, but like kind of like putting a towel down on a sunbed. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to reserve this spot should we want it later. And I just feel at the moment that they've kind of gone so far and so heavy into doing everything via AI
Mhm.
that they have kind of missed a bit of some of those other like because should this not work out and should there be the AI bubble and should there be all these things or should AI just reach a limit which it could reasonably do with this architecture and this setup where next and where do we go next and I just I just find that quite a concerning thing to think about as to how it's doing and my other big thing that kind of gets me at the moment is people are still trying to grapple between the difference between AI and chat and agents, which are a completely different thing that are really autonomous and working in the background, and kind of other machine learning use cases where I think there's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
And and I've I've said this before, and I will say that the OpenAI partnership where it's like, oh, you'll be able to ask to get a summary of your accounts in ChatGPT. And I have just we've just had SLDS2 come out. Like, we've spent all this time and money making an account page have the information you want readily at a glance. Like, surely reading is slower. Like, and we all know how great people are at reading and how much they love to read long reams of text. Like, did you remember the Einstein speaker?
Yeah,
Do you remember
totally.
that? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure like enough time has passed now that we can briefly mention this on a.
I mean,
There
there
was
was
a
like a little
period.
Einstein head, right? That
Yeah,
was actually
they were going to make a smart speaker when Alexa's first came out. And the problem with that, fundamentally, as I once told one of the product managers, was it's great if you're sitting in a room by yourself with it. But if you say, can you tell me what my open opportunities are today? How does it recognize who your voice is in like a room full of voices?
right.
How does it know who it is? And also, if you were like, I don't know, had PII data on there, do you really want that being read out on a loudspeaker? And I don't know. Anyway, we should probably get to what we're meant to be doing today, which is like sharing some horror stories. So, thank
Yeah.
you very much, Pete, for the summary of Dreamforce.
I don't know how
And
to
yeah,
call it
we
a summary. I would say it's like two things that but yeah,
two
we
things
could
that we've managed to whitter on about.
could
Um,
could talk about for ages. So
we could. I mean, you know what? It's our stream. We can talk about what we want.
yeah.
So the thing we are here to talk about today, though, and share because it is Halloween, and we want to do a bit of a light-hearted session, is to go through some Salesforce horror stories. Because it's a bit spooky, it's a bit scary, and we just wanted to share some things that are really kind of scared people over the years. And so we've got a couple here a few here that people have submitted. I've got a few here that I can share from my time out there in the world of consultancy and product development. I'm sure Pete's got some as well. So should we share some horror stories from the community as to things that, and when we say horror stories, bad things you've seen, things that scared you, absolutely kind of witless, just things you don't want to see again.
Yeah. It's sort of like things that make admins drink. Is that's
Yeah,
yeah.
why admins drink, yeah.
Why admins drink. There we go.
So I want to start off with a story, which is genuinely the most scared I've ever been doing anything at work ever, and that is to talk about the most terrifying of all objects in Salesforce, which is the email message object.
Ooh.
So email. Oh yes, are you not familiar with this one?
No, no, no. Like I it's like because there's like activity, and then doesn't email message part of that, or is that something different?
So email message is an object that like is attached to cases, to accounts, to activities, to all sorts.
Okay.
So if you are using, if you're doing a service cloud deployment and you are using email to case and you are sending lots of emails backwards and forwards, you will create a lot of email message records because every email gets
Okay.
stored as one. It is a significant data hog because it stores the HTML body of your email.
Okay.
And people are very good at putting little pictures in the bottom of their emails to show that they've got a badge or done things. So it like eats up. There's orgs I have access to now. There's one org I have access to where it's something like 75% of their data usage.
So does that mean like it's using both record storage data and file storage data? Is that
You can choose not to save the attachments in there, or it saves the attachments separately. But there's different ways and means around it. A lot of like the embedded images, a lot of them are actually just links, and so it will save the HTML that points to the link rather than the actual image itself.
yeah, but I thought rich text fields counted against file storage, don't they?
No, they count against your regular storage, as far as I'm aware.
Because I thought like regular storage was metered by record. No? Or do they like
Yeah,
just
but these,
allocate a lot for email because they expect
yeah,
so it's like
it's just basically a weird object. So
okay,
so the
yeah,
point
one
being,
of
I was
those weird
working in an
objects.
org where they had 16 million emails that were taking up, like when I say gigabytes, I mean tens of gigabytes of space. Which if we were on another platform and another system, wouldn't matter so much. But when Salesforce is charging you a lot of money for it, and this was sort of a long time ago, we had to come up with a solution. And so the solution we came up with was to use Heroku Connect, which we kind of did the pricing
Okay.
matrix and lines, and Heroku storage is a lot cheaper. And what we figured out was that after a certain point, it would be more expensive to keep on paying for Salesforce data storage. That would be to archive the emails off to Heroku and then use Heroku Connect to external objects to display them back in. So we kind of would copy them to Heroku, on Heroku, copy them between tables, and delete them back in Salesforce. Now, during testing, I did some testing on this, and the system worked fine. It was all right. I believe it's even still in operation. I tested this system and did it with sort of like 10 records, 50 records, 100 records, and then turned it on in the live system, and we'd forgot to set a flag to do it. So we're going to do it like let's just do this many records, and then let's just do this many records. We started synchronizing all 16 million records at once, and to say, I mean, so the nice ending of this story is that it worked perfectly. Like
Wow.
everything worked. Like Heroku Connect was just like, oh, this is a lot of stuff going backwards and forwards, but it dealt with the sync really well, and we had all the counts up. We had backups as well, so we weren't worried if something went wrong.
So that's one of those like, oh shit, I guess what do we do now? Let's just wait and see.
So what was meant to be happening was we were meant to have this configuration file that was going to be doing it in we were going to do like basically sets of 10,000, right? And we'd found a way of selecting them that was going to do it really probably like just, we're going to do a month and then the next month and then the next month and increment this over time. Because, and this is the next part of the story that makes this scary, because I started this process and then was getting on a train home from London. So I do not, because once I started it, cancelling it wasn't going to, it had started deleting data, and sometimes it's harder to start unpicking things than it is to let them play out. Because I was like, well, I could either just do a full restore or like try and it worked perfectly.
Like you don't want to have to. That would be such a mess to try and unpick.
Yeah. So I sat there on a train with, I think, some of the train seat being inhaled by my backside as I was sweating and panicking, and but it worked fine. And by the time I got home on the train, I was literally sat there glued, and it's a Heroku app, right? So all you can see is number of records, a number of records, and I'm just sat there refreshing number of records on a 4G connection on the UK rail network, which is horrific at the best of times. But yeah, by the time I got home, I stayed up until like sort of 12:30, and it completed it. Everything was done. All the
Wow.
counts are correct. But yeah, that was the scariest thing I've ever done, because there was just that sudden, as you say, oh moment of like, there's 60 million records going here. But the learning lesson from it, and I want all of these stories hopefully to try and have a learning lesson, is to make sure you check and triple check that nobody's overwritten your configuration file. Because
Uh,
someone had just removed the number like while they were doing some other testing, which was fine.
right.
Um, but yeah, had not been
Oh.
updated on the team. There was me and a few other people working on it, and they'd done it when they were doing it a test. They pushed it across in test. I'd not checked.
Well, see,
So
this is
yes.
why we're going to have agents. They'll just like make sure that doesn't happen, right?
Oh yeah, because I mean, an autonomous thing running away in the background wouldn't be a scary idea. Right? So yeah, so that's my first terrifying story of 16 million records and about 3 kilograms sweated out, sat there on the
Yeah,
train, panicking over it.
you
Yeah,
definitely would. So that makes
yeah,
me
but
really curious, like, because it's like I want to learn more about this email message object. Oh, okay. So, so I'm looking up here. I'll share my screen. Google Chrome is requesting blah 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 blah. Allow. All right, that
there
should
you
be
go.
ready to share. So this is the magic
You might need to zoom in a bit.
knowledge base article that everybody should be aware of if they aren't already. Right. Basically, a record is worth 2 kilobytes,
Yeah.
no matter what. Like one field, 2 kilobytes. 800 fields, 2 kilobytes. It's
Why
it's
is that, Peter?
magical. It's magical Salesforce maths. Um,
So do you know what that is? Are you aware of the reasoning?
well, I actually I don't know that anybody's ever explained it to me, but I always assumed that what was happening was they're just sort of. I mean, because of the multi-tenant record table, like, you're still using basically that whole record of 800 like basically user defined fields. So they just sort of like boom, like they're either reserving it or like it actually costs that much. So
Yep, that is exactly. It's my understanding as to why it's exactly right. So yes, I've
yeah.
been told that that is the reason. But yeah, so email message 2 kilobytes, double, double, double star.
Right. And so then, like, so that is may vary depending on whether the email message is HTML. A 1 kilobyte email message sorry, 100 kilobyte email message of data storage space. Text only emails consumes less storage. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That could be that's a really good one to know. Like if you're a fairly heavy user of like email to case,
Mhm.
um like
Yeah.
just to prepare yourself and to know like well like how well is that standard storage like offering actually going to fare. There must be some tools to help like determine that, yeah.
So I mean, you can do kind of a rough guesstimate. The kind of just as two bits of learning for people in terms of things to do around this. Uh, number one, use other ways of solving cases alongside email. Like email to case is great, but like have a form that allows you to get knowledge answers, and
Mhm.
there's chat, there's bots, there's all the other things. The other good idea is to try and use just text, as it says there. A lot of organizations like to think they need the HTML email, but you can just have the text email for purposes of auditing if you need it.
Yeah.
Because really, that's why people store it, so they can go back in history and say, yes, we agreed, or no, we didn't agree. But
Right, and you don't need all
yeah,
the fancy HTML formatting for that, so
no, and like it's again, if you want to search through it or just show something happened, it was there. The other thing to do is, I think Enterprise Edition orgs and above have a million rows of big object storage for free.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so one of the things you can do is condense down your email messages into some big object storage over time and have an archiving process in place. Like, you don't need
Mhm.
to store emails from 8 years ago.
Right.
Nobody's like, there are regulatory things about that, but B, nobody has ever called up and said, "Hi, I sent you an email 8 years ago about my purchase." If they do, then you go, "Great, like buy another." I mean, there's
Yeah.
ways and means
Yeah.
around these things.
Yeah.
You could just then say, "Well, we deleted that for data protection purposes. Are you upset?" Yeah. But do that. The other option I've seen some people do is if you want to, you can take the emails. This is horrific. Please don't do this, but it's an option. Take the emails, save them as PDFs, put them in as content, and
Mm.
relate the content to. It's a horrific hack. That this also gets worse when you have. So the new email threading should help solve this, but so Pete emails in saying, "Hi Paul, I have a problem." I then reply back saying, "Pete, what's your problem?" And then it copies in below that, "Hi Paul, I have a problem." Pete then replies back, and all those emails, often in the
Right.
replies, include it on there. So you can get this kind of exponential
Right.
booming effect.
Snowballing effect of
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
use like the threading ID and that helps with that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Scary
Very
story number one.
nice.
So
I get
another one I have here. So this is one that someone submitted through the form that I quite like, and this would actually completely freak me out. Let me just take that off a second. So
yeah, yeah.
um, I was just beginning my experience with Salesforce and was asked to transfer ownership of thousands of account records to a director. I did it using the SOAP API, but left the parameter owner change option.send email set to true. So for those who aren't following along as closely at home, when you change the owner of an account record, you could have it so that it sends an email to them to say you're the owner of the new account record. That is that setting that they'd left to true. The story continues. Her inbox was flooded for a couple of hours. A few months later, she left the company, and I think that I might have contributed to that decision. That's brilliant.
Oh, man.
So,
Actually, if you're really like clever, you could almost like plan that if you like needed an afternoon off or something. Like just like talk to your Salesforce admin and say like, look, I need you to do this thing for me. Like I need you to like reassign those and accidentally like make sure you send emails on everyone. And you can be like, what? I can't do anything. Sorry, I'm just gonna go to like I gotta go
I
do my
mean,
thing.
I'll be honest. My thought was more as if you want to get rid of someone, just sit there and every Friday flood their email inbox by assigning them 10,000 accounts or something, and leave that
Well,
email sent to true.
that could possibly, yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah, it's just
the other side of it.
passive aggressive, like you were
Oh
doing it.
man.
I can just. I mean, we've all had. I was testing a flow recently that sent an email, and it sends out emails with some account kind of reconciliation on them,
Mhm.
and it sends them out to the accounts person of that company.
Of
So I was
course, yeah.
testing it, and I needed to test in volume, and so yeah, I will be very frank. I checked and triple checked and quadruple checked that the emails were going to go to my inbox and
Right.
not to the actual customers 1,000 times. I've seen that one done before. There's another uh, email sending related one of someone I worked with once accidentally sent um, an email out to every member of a community. There happened to be 10,000 of them. And so it was then followed up very swiftly by an email saying, "Apologies that you received that email." It was like
Wow.
a welcome sort of email as well, and all these people be like, "What do you mean?" The community was only being used for single sign-on. Um,
Oh,
so, yeah,
gosh.
so the person here is
Email
also
kind
to
of
share.
has all kinds of crazy like it because of the effects of it, and it's amazing to me like how I'm thinking back to the company I was working for like around 2000 and
Hmm.
this was like a customer service CRM type of offering And, we all thought, "Oh, it's amazing, like, we can automatically reply with an email, like, that's so cool," that
Oh,
was, like, where we were at the time. But it's amazing to me, like, how many like, how often the sort of never-ending response to out of office message,
oh yeah.
that was a massive and, to be fair, I didn't think of it either, like, I wasn't the one actually implementing it, but, like, it amazes me sometimes when I think back of, like, where we were and just how naive, like, products were just 20 years ago, things like not even requiring people to use HTTPS, for example, and I think Salesforce didn't even require that in its early,
No.
implementations. I think that had just recently, or at least it was still a setting, but, like, it was on everywhere when I started Salesforce. There was still a, require use HTTPS tick box. It was just ticked, like, you couldn't untick it, thank goodness. But, yeah, like, things like that, it's amazing how naive we can be as human beings in the early stages of using a technology. And then I think about where we are with AI.
Let's not dive back into AI.
Sorry,
You just
but I do
yeah, oh yeah.
there must be some like really naive things that we're doing right now.
I
Anyway,
mean, you've seen the AI browser hacks, haven't you?
oh yeah, like that was
Yeah,
it was funny
like
because I nearly had installed it on my work machine last week. I was
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'll take a crack at this, right? Why not?" Right? And like Monday morning, that news dropped, and I was like, I sent a message to our IT person. I was like, "Hey, good thing I never actually went and installed that browser, did I?"
So you reminded me of another. Just this is a non-Salesforce related funny story, but earlier in my IT career, uh, one of the places I worked, we had an office director or office manager. She was not the most technically minded of people, um, and also I think was just bored and liked to come up with ways of improving things.
Mhm.
And so when we were
As you
mentioning about
do.
like the little images at the bottom of your email in the footer,
Yeah.
um, so I was on the IT team. We'd set up everyone's email footers. Those images were just HTML links. They weren't actual images copied in. It was HTML links that was loaded in.
Right.
She had the bright idea of looking at how big one of those images was, and it was like 50 kilobytes, right? Tiny, tiny, tiny thing. And we had an Exchange server that we were running on our own server, because this was back before I was
Yeah.
working in the cloud.
Yeah, that as you used to do. Yeah.
Yep. And that server had something like 6 terabytes worth of like storage on it in a RAID array and all this sort of stuff. Um, and she had us go in, and she was trying to work out how much storage would be saved by not having everyone have that in their footer. And like it didn't matter how many times we explained it to her, we had to go. She was like, "No, but go away and come back with a number." And I'm like, "But it's not that's not how that." And she's like, "Yes, but look, I can see the picture there, and I can tell you it's this much. So how many emails have we got?" And so I went away and calculated a number for her under the direction of my boss, who just said, "Choose a number that's small enough. She's not going to ask us to do anything with it, but big enough so that she feels vindicated." And so yeah, that was one of the like that was one of my earlier jobs as well, and I have never understood office politics better than at that moment, where it's just like, yeah, like you just need to. I know you're right. I know she's wrong, but we just need to end this and shut it up right now.
So was this the thing that attracted you away from your career in quantum neural networks?
Yeah, that was it. It was. I
It's
was
like,
sat there
"Oh
thinking like,
god, I
hey,
gotta do more of this IT stuff."
yeah, I was sat there thinking like, it was yeah. Yeah, do you know what? Who wants to do that? No, yeah, that was my reasons for not doing that were different, but I still Still wish I'd kind of gone down that route occasionally, but no, I did not. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely not the thrill of working in Microsoft IT support setups that did it for me.
Oh man.
Uh,
So I
so,
had my role being very focused on building like demos and environments that people can go play in and that sort of thing. Like I don't really have a ton of horror stories, but this is kind of borderline one of those where
mhm.
so there was when I first started in developer relations, we we there was kind of a spate of hackathons that we hosted, especially here in the EMEA team. Our head of developer relations was like really focused on this as a strategy, and he had come from Microsoft, and like he really wanted to try and use this as a way to build
Was that Will?
the. No, it was Guillaume. Well, interestingly, like same surname but in French. Guillaume Roch was his name.
Okay, yeah, no
Um,
big deal.
yeah, and so this was a hackathon we were doing in conjunction with like several different company partners who had data, and one of them was like a heating like sort of infrastructure. It was, yeah, I forget, it was heating. Oh no, it was like it was like a gas or heating provider.
Hmm.
It might have even been like the state provider of that, and they basically like sent us these data sets, and and in order for the participants to be able to use it, we had to fit was a pretty large data set into a developer edition org, basically, because that was the free org
Mhm.
that we had. And like that was a bit of a challenge, obviously, because it was time-based data.
Oh wow, yeah.
And yeah, which can really rack up a lot of storage. And as we just talked about, storage, your whatever it is, 10 megabytes or whatever of storage for a developer edition org, or is it 20?
Hmm. Is it? I
Divide
thought it
that
was.
by 2 kilobytes and you understand exactly how many records you can accumulate all in. Um, and actually, I just did this recently. I think I was able to fit 50,000 records into a developer edition when I was doing
Yeah.
my tests with platform events. But I think it was smaller. The allocation was actually smaller at the time. Um, anyway, so it's like, basically, like how am I gonna fit all of this data so that like the participants can actually use Salesforce orgs in order to like build solutions? Like that was a, a problem to solve. Well, since this was like time series and it was
Hmm.
either like times of the day or days of the week or whatever, I basically made them into fat tables. So like I ended up making it so that the time periods, like whatever it was, if it was like hours across a day, I would basically take the 4 or 5 measurements and, basically have a set of fields that were like, this is, you know, all of those measurements for midnight, and all of that was one set of fields, all those measurements for 1 a.m. And again, like four
Hmm.
more fields, so I basically used up all the fields by 800. That was the first time I did more than, for all of the demo work and all the developer relations work, we rarely would, you know, go past like 10 custom
10.
fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I was, using hundreds of custom fields in that in order to make the data work. But I got it in there. I managed to fit it all in and have space for them to actually have other like sort of customer data. So there we go. That was I don't know if that's quite a horror story, but it
I
was
mean,
like what I
that's an interesting conundrum to get around at least.
Well, yeah, it was like when I was given the data set, and I knowing what I knew about developer edition orgs, I was just a bit like, okay, how am I going to do this? Right. But I forget if, like, I figured that out or if I was, like, looking for something and found a suggestion online, but yeah, I mean, again, it's like, how do you slice up the data? And there we go. That was my
It worked.
it
It
worked.
worked.
It fit in. I don't know how many people that was the other problem and partly why we stopped doing hackathons. So here's the thing about hackathons. When you do it, part of the fun for people is the time pressure, but that also means you don't want to spend a lot of time learning a whole lot of new things. So it's rare that people want to start with a whole brand new platform for a hackathon,
Mm.
especially when there are other options. And these ones we were, collaborating with other partners. So it wasn't just a Salesforce hackathon, it was Salesforce and these other people were sponsoring it. So it's just hard to get people to go and adopt and build something on Salesforce if they didn't already know it.
Yeah.
Um,
If they had the choice, if they knew Node.js and there was Heroku available, they'd choose that.
exactly. Like we can get this thing running in a fraction of the time that it would take us to do it on Salesforce because we just don't have to learn Salesforce. So
Yeah.
that was kind of one of the downfalls, I think, of the hackathon strategy. We varied some later, which that's not time to tell that story now. So we did have some other moderate success, but when people come to me and ask, I want to do a hackathon with Salesforce, like
Mhm.
I've got a lot of like reasons why not to actually.
There was So one of the things I think is interesting instead of doing a hackathon. So I mentioned, do you listen to Syntax or watch any of the Syntax videos?
No, no.
So Syntax is a YouTube channel, Syntax FM, and a podcast, and it's a chap called Wes Boss.
Oh, I know
Um,
Wes Boss. Yeah.
yeah, so it's Wes's YouTube channel, and there's a couple other guys,
Okay.
Scott Shakon and CJ, whose surname I don't know. But they do these. There's a bunch of amazing videos on there. One of the cool things they do is CSS battles,
Hmm.
things like that. And they're just real web tech nerds. But they are sponsored by Sentry. I don't know whether they are owned by Sentry or
Okay.
like an arm of that. But one of the cool things that they did recently was Sentry has a hack week, and the guys
Hmm.
took part in it. And some of the stuff they produced. So uh, Wes built like a 2D, like an LED array
Hmm.
where you can go on and live draw on it. So he could share the link and people would around the internet be able to draw on it, and you could upload an SVG and it render it on there.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, from Node. And you had CJ built a Sega Genesis game
Oh wow. Okay.
using C. Like there's a port for that and things like that. And then Scott built some. I think it was like some. Oh, that was it. He built like a JavaScript code golf kind of
Okay.
different thing.
Yeah.
So they're all cool ideas, but I like the idea of hack weeks. I think more than
Yeah.
hackathons, which is slightly different ways. Just that idea of you go away and you build something, and but they were saying that like internally in Sentry, there are a bunch of things that got built and actually put out there and are live in the product now because it was just like one person had this like irritation around this singular bug. And if Parker, if you're listening right now, like, just allowing people a week to go away and work on like fixing
Wait,
something that they see as a
they have
bugbear.
that.
Do they?
Yeah.
I've
Custom
never heard of
metadata
it.
types came about because of that.
Really? There's a cool thing.
Yeah,
Well,
Avram Roy
I
Fetterman, it was like his passion project, and they call it paid time on.
yeah.
And I forget what the percentage is. It made me like 20% of their time they can use on like a passion project and just go and build something.
See,
And
I suppose what I'm on about is slightly different, where like there is also that time box thing because I think
yeah, they
the
do that
passion.
too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's internal hackathons all the time at Salesforce. In fact, one of the people who has excelled at it and has actually contributed to the product in many ways, many different times, is Stefan Chandler Garcia.
Ah, cool.
He's actually like I don't know if he's still doing that. He's had some changes in what he's doing, and you know, so he may or may not still have the time to do that. But in when he was on my team, he regularly would participate in the hackathons that would go on internally. And there were a few times where things that he built ended up being incorporated into the product, or Yeah, so that definitely happens. It's
Ah,
just
cool.
nobody talks about it.
Well, okay then. If someone from the marketing team is listening, talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's
like,
a really good.
like let's. You don't have to call it Agent Hackathon. Just talk about like building fun stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It
very
yeah,
cool.
that's another funny thing, like, people like, what people do seize on, you know, like, the confetti on opportunity close thing that people got really upset about, that, like,
Yeah.
why is Salesforce spending time and energy building that? That was a product manager that, like, in his free time, he was like, "Oh, we can do confetti when an opportunity
Yeah.
closes." And, like, built it, you know, and, obviously, probably some engineering time was done to make sure that it would actually scale and work in the project and, blah, blah, blah. But, like, there wasn't a lot of, like, that didn't really take away from
Oh no.
anything being delivered. But a lot of people inferred it as that. And that was one of those things, like,
I mean, I'm probably someone that's whinged like about that sort of. I think. Do you know, I think the difficulty is for Salesforce and also for like Salesforce customers and like the ecosystem around it is that in general, users love the confetti too. The
users
SLE, like users love it. It's curmudgeons like myself that probably were getting. I'm sure I'm probably on record somewhere saying this is stupid. Um, I think the difficulty is it's when it's the death by a thousand cuts thing.
Mm.
Is that like I was in an org earlier on, and I was deleting a flow. What page do you get taken to when you delete a flow?
Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea.
You get taken
Homepage.
to nope, the global pick lists page.
Now
I
that
was
is a horror story. How did we end up here?
I was having to do a change set earlier on for a customer, and every time you visit the inbound change set page, it pops up asking you if you're like with a little 2 hour thing, and you can tell it you don't want to hear that message anymore.
Mm.
You're gonna keep on hearing that message, like, and the way I would describe it is that it's like you imagine you just stubbed your toe every hour, and you like, and the simple thing to do is to just move the thing like an inch over out of the way, and you won't stub your toe anymore. And you know that it's not hard to move that table over to stop stubbing your toe, but you keep on doing so. And I think
But
that's
this is
it. Is
like
that there's
Salesforce's cookie consent on all of their public properties. It never goes away. And, like, I honestly, that has been something that I
yeah,
just, like, and that's been going on as long as GDPR has existed. So what is that, like, 5 years now, 6
yeah,
years?
yeah. It
Like,
doesn't recognize that. It's not meant to require you to log in if you visit something on the developer communities and just want to read it,
yeah.
but it still redirects you to the Trailblaze login. I mean, I could
Yeah.
I could do a 2 hour rant about Trailblazer ID and how
Well,
much I hate that damn
that's a
thing.
whole other.
But
But
like, but
just the
this,
cookie
and
consent, like, seriously, like, cookie consent, like, if I just say, "Yes, all the cookies," like, it should just
yeah,
go
leave
away
me alone.
forever. I should never see it again, and I
Yeah,
see it every single time for, like, 6 years.
yeah, and like the this is what I mean about like it doesn't stop you doing your work. It just kind of like it's
Irritates you.
just that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I think where people get annoyed about these things is because there's so many little things like that where
It's like the
you could
paper
spend a
cuts
day.
with lemon juice on it.
Yeah,
Kind
exactly. And it's it's or like I've described it to someone else before. It's like every 5 minutes someone's flicking my ear, and like it's not enough to like it's not awful. Like it's irritating, but like you're not gonna die from it. But like
Uh,
you're just there, and it's just constant, and you know how easy it would be for that to stop. I mean, there's a bunch of little things on there. Where you're like, just stop that.
mhm.
There's no way of mass assigning permission set licenses. Like just little nuances. That I'm just like, just
Well, no,
help
somebody
me.
made Permissioner, didn't they? And there, or is that, yeah, David Cohen, like, I thought maybe built something like that. Like, somebody's
Yeah,
built
but
something, but, like, again, like, why did somebody have to build this?
yeah,
Yeah, and there's a bunch of stuff like that that are like recent configurations or pieces of
Mm.
metadata that it's like they couldn't be asked to like put it in the setup menu. The one that
Yeah.
I came across recently, again, like going back on the whole like parallel platform events thing, is the subscriber configuration
Mm.
for your Apex subscriber to platform events. Like that's metadata. It gets pulled down in metadata. There's a metadata type for it. You know, it's like it's all metadata, but like, is it in the setup menu? Nope.
Nope.
Like, doesn't
Good luck.
exist.
And I mean, how the fact is, there's still so many parts of the setup menu that are like classic UI and not even Lightning.
Well,
So,
yeah, yeah, you
mm.
could go on, but that
So
was another thing. Like somebody brought
well,
up about like I think we're really gonna get it now, like with the setup menu and like the agent force setup. Like now we have a reason to re-architect it, is what was said.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So let's have another horror story from the
Okay.
community. So
Yeah.
not just Paul and Pete ranting about being taken in global pick list pages.
No.
Um, the
It's
consulting
just
company. Say again.
sorry. Oh, it's just hilarious. So
I know. Yeah, it's
it's so
not
random.
like there's no way of mass deleting flow versions either. Anyway, stop whinging, Paul. So the consulting company my employer hired had finished their work and deployed a test class. Later, I tried to deploy my own work and got an error saying that the test coverage in the org was insufficient in spite of my having 100% of the class I was trying to deploy. Looking further, I'd identified the consultant's class as the problem. It was invalid because it was huge and Salesforce had a limit on class size. The class had about 10,000 lines of code like dummy variable plus plus inside a loop. I had to learn how to submit destructive changes.xml via the API, this was before the CLI, and delete a number of dependent classes that would otherwise lack coverage and prevent deployment. Then I had to redeploy those dependent classes with correct tests and appropriate test coverage. It was a lot of work that I had to do in a short time and stopped my go live from being as successful. I
Ouch.
mean, we all remember the I++ kind of hack
Oh my
for.
god. Yeah, that is one of the original horror stories. Give me 1 second. I just need to make sure that somebody just rang the
No,
doorbell.
you
I'll be
you
right
go for
back.
that. I'm going to talk about I++ for a second. So, for those that are unfamiliar with the I++ hack, what would happen is, um, historically, to get coverage, what some people would do is in their classes or in their test classes would just have just a big old set of loops, and you would just write 10,000 lines of code where you had I++ and a semicolon, and just copy and paste that again and again and again, and have that in a test class that would run. That would count as covered code, and that would therefore increase your overall org code coverage versus actually having proper tests. Now, let's be very clear, it was a hack. I can't say I ever did it, as I've always been a bit of a TDD nerd as much as possible, and kind of write my test. But I have seen it been done, and yeah, it was an awful period. Thankfully, it seems to have died out, that practice. But yeah, I once worked in an organization where one of the colleagues I worked with was doing that, and kind of thankfully I was brought in as this colleague's senior, and so I very quickly stopped that practice from occurring. But yeah, the I++ trick was a definite favorite for a while, of just slamming through code coverage, and I think code coverage was calculated differently back then when it was popular as well. If I remember, it was number of lines rather than number of statements. Um, and so that was a
Oh, is
big
that
thing
really
as
is it
well.
now number of statements?
I think it is. It's different, isn't it? Like,
Oh, that's interesting.
because system.debug doesn't count towards it. Because again, another hack for a period of time was people doing
Mhm.
10,000 system.debug statements as well. But yeah, I'm sure it's actually code coverage Salesforce. It says executable lines, but I'm sure it's not. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I think if you have multiple, if a statement consists of multiple expressions that are written on multiple lines, each line is counted for code coverage. So it is across multiple lines then. Oh, I thought it was statements. It might have been statements previously then, and now is lines or something. It was.
So, do you know who Roger Mitchell is?
I do know Roger Mitchell, yeah.
Did you ever see his Apex Minify tool?
Oh yeah, where it would like compress it, remove all of the spacing possible so that it was easier to do that. Yes.
You basically take an Apex class that you can read
Yep.
and then pop it into his tool and it comes back. Here, I've actually got it. I'll send it to you on chat because I can't post it on the.
Yeah, I mean, I can share your screen if you've got it up on your screen.
Oh yeah, I've got it. Here.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah. So yeah, so like, you write your Apex class. Can I write directly in here? So public class, my class.
Can you zoom in a touch, Pete? Sorry.
What's that?
You just zoom in a touch.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. So this is for anyone watching and catching up right now. This is Peter Chittum writing the best code he's ever written.
Okay, so I think that's good enough. It doesn't need to compile. So yeah, you basically have that, and then you can minify it. And that's interesting.
Because you've
actually,
got
there's more comments in there than there is actually code. But yeah. But anyway, that would be the gist of it. Is like you basically, ostensibly a much longer Apex class, and then you pop it in there and you end up with just a single line of the Apex class, which then means you only have one line of Apex code to test in that class.
Life hack.
Don't do this at home, kiddies.
Yes, please.
But he did. I mean, he did do a Prettify version, so obviously, that's, so you could always. It'd be interesting to see if anybody's ever written this into like their deployment strategy.
To minify their code.
Minify it in their Apex code, and then unminify it. Like somehow, like you could build that. I mean, that's essentially what you do with JavaScript anytime these days. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now that's just made me shudder. Thank you. So that is, I mean, yeah. There's been a lot of hacks over the years though to deal with test code coverage, which I remember there being maybe I'm just not in the loop on these debates anymore, but I remember for a while there was a kind of big discussion in the community about like people having to reiterate why test code coverage was important. Because I know that I did a couple of talks at events on testing. Simon Goodyear did.
Yeah.
Like, a few of us were there kind of, banging in the drum being like, you should really do this. And then there'd be someone being like, yeah, but, why does Salesforce make me do this? I only need to do 75%. It's like, Wild West days.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same argument with governor limits, isn't it? It's just an expression of the limited resources that you would have anyway on any other system. It's just that, like, you would find out about it possibly in production when you realize that you were executing that query inside of a loop as opposed to like not. Like, I mean, that's just it's kind of a pointless argument, isn't it?
It is, but people still like to make it.
Yep.
So I have another story here, which is one that I actually saw on LinkedIn earlier. So it's slightly different, but so it says it's about. I'm going to paraphrase this one because I'm not going to just steal this person's LinkedIn post, but I've also seen this out in the world where they had every test class started failing with the error "start test does not exist." Can you guess why you would suddenly get an error with the phrase "start test does not exist"?
So it did work.
Mm-hmm.
and then it suddenly stopped working?
Yeah. Why? How could you make it suddenly stop working?
I don't know. I'm a bit baffled by this one, I confess.
So again, I've seen this in a junior developer, first time on the platform. Do this. You can create a class called test in Apex.
Oh,
And so if you create a class called test in Apex, when you are calling test.startTest normally, what you're really calling is system.test.startTest. But if you exclude the namespace, it presumes it's the system namespace. There's nothing to stop you adding your own class called test because it's in a different namespace.
wow.
And so, yeah, you can do that. If I mean, again, if I do not recommend doing this, but if you really like are pissed off with someone and want to like go away and knacker their org up, just create a small class called test, deploy it, watch the world burn, and that'll be it.
Wow, yeah, that
This,
is a bit
this has suddenly turned
horrifying.
from from horrifying stories into how to get back at people using your Salesforce deployments. It's a
Damn, yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. So test is not because I always thought it would have been a reserved like reserve name, reserve keyword, but I'm pretty sure as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, that's one of those
Well,
things where it's like if you can almost learn from not staying on the happy path. Like, I would never call something a class test because it would be confusing, right? Um,
but like if you, I'm gonna stick up for people that have done this here because I could completely see you're learning Apex for the first time and you just I just want to knock together a quick class to kind of
yeah,
test out what I'm doing and I call it test and suddenly bang,
yeah.
yeah.
It'd be
So
even
yeah,
worse if you then actually wrote a method called start test and
oh yeah, that's the way of. Oh, that's like going. That's a deep state way of going in and like breaking everything. If you deployed that, everything would still run, but everyone would suddenly get government limit issues. Oh, well, you know what?
Oh,
Like, I mean, like, if any of the hacker groups are listening now, there's your way of like bringing Salesforce to its knees and just deploy it.
oh
I'm gonna.
man.
If you do that into like something like the unofficial flow library or like one of those packages which people just to push in, they could
Hmm.
really.
Yeah,
There you go.
like welcome supply chain attack. Boom.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
Ouch.
now that we've figured out how we bring the world to its knees, um, I think I've got one more story to share,
All right.
which is about again not something I did, but a mess I had to clear up once. Where uh, one of the companies I was working in, we had um, we had a team member there who one day was installing a an app, one of our managed packages, into a customer's org. They installed the wrong app into the wrong customer's org. We had multiple managed packages. They installed the wrong managed package into a customer's org. I then got an email from the head of IT for that customer because it was my customer's org. So it was kind of they'd had access um, as they were a developer working on. They were working on multiple projects. Installed it in the wrong org. I got an email from their IT security team later on that evening saying, "Just noticed that this has been installed into our org today." And so not only had they done it, they were meant to be installing this app into the production org for another customer. The customer I was working on, we were still in sandboxes, but we had production credentials to be able to do things like get change sets in and do validation and kind of, we did have a basic CI pipeline and things like that. So yeah, I got a call from IT or an email from IT security later on that night being like, why have one of your team installed this app into our production environment? We're not paying for this app. We don't need this app. Is this part of this deployment?
Oh no.
Um, and yeah, it gets worse. They'd loaded some data in. Thankfully, they had loaded in setup data, like kind of base data we needed around kind of the framework in there. But it was basically another company's policies they'd started to load in.
Oh
And so,
God.
yeah, I then spent my Saturday unwinding that because I didn't see the email obviously until Saturday morning. Literally got it
Oh.
late Friday night.
Hmm.
Saw it Saturday morning. Spent my Saturday doing that unpicking and saying and apologizing, just saying, "Oh, this shouldn't have happened. Apologies." Thankfully, the IT guy was quite okay about it
Hmm.
because it didn't impact any of their data.
Right.
But yeah, there was a moment where I sat down on Saturday morning. I won't say the exact words that came into my mind. I won't say, and I'll be honest, I won't say the exact words I thought about calling the person that had done it either. Um, but yeah, it was that
I
happened, and so
I
yeah,
don't suppose you bothered notifying the other customer whose data was getting loaded into the.
no, I mean it was like policy data and information. So it
Okay.
was technically stuff that you could have found versions of it online if you were trying.
Okay.
Some of
Yeah.
it wasn't public yet, but it wasn't like account data, wasn't contact data or anything like that. It was data to build up other policies and practices. But yeah, um,
Oof. Ouch.
yeah. So yeah, very always check which environment you're logged into when you're doing things. Like, doesn't hurt to check and triple check. We all heard the phrase "measure twice, cut once," but yeah.
Have a backup.
Well,
I mean, that wouldn't
I
have
mean,
really helped in that instance, but, like, the times I can think where I've, like, screwed something up, like, it was around data, and, like, if you have
yeah.
a backup, then it will probably be easier to recover from, so.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had the approach as well with one of the things I learned very early. This is again a non-Salesforce related story, but when I was 16, I did some work experience for an outbound call center for a national newspaper in the UK.
Okay.
Um, and part of my work experience was they got me updating something using an ODBC connection. Um, and they accidentally sent me production credentials. So I did some stuff and I was like, all right, I just need to delete this data now because I was doing some test stuff. They'd given me production credentials. I didn't realize it was a production database. I thought it was just my test database because I had been given the wrong credentials. And I deleted everything. Like I deleted an entire production database. And what happened then was there was a moment I deleted it. And I was like, great, I can deploy this to production now. And then there was about 30 seconds that passed before someone went, why is nothing working? And thankfully, I did this at 8 something in the morning, and nobody else started working until about 9. So, by sheer luck alone,
Yeah.
and the backup had only run at midnight. So, yeah, we literally, it was the first time I saw a hard drive get hot swapped, which was quite cool to see. Um, so, yeah, literally in a server room, ping one out, slam one back in, and go from there. But yeah, that that was probably the first. I mean, that was definitively the first time because, um, in fact, it was. You must have met Neil, who I used to work with at Cloud Galacticos.
Uh,
He was a CTO there, Neil McGarney.
I must have. I can't think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he and I were working together. It was when I first met. So he was my boss then,
Okay.
trying to teach me, and yeah, he was very good at helping me fix the problem that me and someone else had caused, the person who had given me the credentials. But he also did the very good thing of letting me not know that it had been fixed for about an hour. He let me stew for an hour, thinking I, you know, I was gonna. I mean, obviously, I thought I was gonna get fired, but I also was like, I don't, at that age, I was like, what can they do to me? Um, and yeah, it was a very good. And after an hour, I got taken for a cup of coffee and got told it was fine, it's been sorted. But now we know the lesson of measure twice, cut once.
Indeed.
Um, and also, the person who gave me the incorrect credentials got slightly more of a telling off, shall we say, than I did because they're like,
Right.
"Why have you given him these credentials? You shouldn't have done it." But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was an incredibly important learning lesson, and one that I think I'm a big proponent. I did a go live this week for a customer, and it wasn't a huge amount of stuff that it wasn't like the most complex go live, as it were. I had practiced that go live 3 times though to 3 different sandboxes,
Hmm.
like because that way I knew every little thing that had gone wrong all the way through them. There were still some things that went wrong, but you can guarantee that I was much more comfortable with where things are than that. I did a deployment once one time, which was 9 months worth of work. It was 1,600 metadata items.
Wow.
Um, went through, and I did that for a week. All I did every day was I just said to everyone, like, the week before go live, nothing's changing. You'll know what you need to fix in terms of going through. But every day I spent at least half, if not more, of the day just doing test deployments, getting things going, running through some basic happy path testing to make sure that nothing got missed, do it again and again. Like, if anyone ever asks what's the best bit of advice I can give you in like the software industry is if you're doing a deployment, test it again, test it a third time, make sure your deployment has been so thoroughly gone through that you're not going to have any of those side issues.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think people often underestimate the number of little things that can go wrong on deployments, and also just it makes you just so much more confident about it when you're going through it.
Well, yeah, otherwise it's the first time you've seen all of it, right?
Mm.
So, um, yeah,
And we're all fallible. There's things you forget, there's things that change, there's things that tweak.
yeah.
So it's just so important to do it.
Or like you said,
Yeah,
earlier, there's things that somebody can have modified a value in that configuration file,
yeah.
so
Yes. Yes. Thankfully, we tested it well enough that I was okay and confident it was going to work anyway. But yeah, still verify your own lessons occasionally. So yeah, so I mean, so that was some horror stories. So
um,
I mean, have they chilled you to the bone, Pete? Are you gonna have nightmares tonight worrying about email message objects and I plus plus in your
no,
test classes?
I've learned to not lose sleep over Salesforce, so
That's good. That's a very healthy attitude to have.
15 years will do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to say I don't lose any sleep over Salesforce anymore, but I'm better at compartmentalizing. But I think I'm more better at, and I think it's different depending on what roles you're doing. Like when
Yeah.
there was a couple of years back, I was doing a go live for a company that were about, and it was kind of the last big push they need to do to get a bunch of auditing done before they got listed on the stock market.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and so their parent company had a date where they were like, "You need to be ready for listing on this date." And the auditors were like, "Well, you need to do these things, and they need to be ready by this date." And I was the lucky son of a gun that was pushing the things live. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I've done things like that. I worked on a project once where it was end of life care for people,
Oh, okay.
and so that was important that was right.
Yeah.
I worked on the Olympic Games where we had
I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
reporting going up to the Cobra committee. Um, so there are certain times that you will lose sleep doing projects if you're doing projects that matter enough.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think aside from like the odd use case like the Cobra one and the healthcare one, people are just not going to be able to sell shit. And oh well, yeah,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. I again the go live I had this week. As much as I tested, I was like, the worst case that happens is people cannot do chat support. It's not, no one's dying over that. It's like, oh no, people will have to go look at the knowledge articles.
Nice.
Yeah. So, with that being the end of our kind of horror stories, what have you got on for the next couple of weeks, Pete? What's on your
Well,
pipeline?
so funny you should mention it. The big thing that we're working on right now is starting next week and all through the month of November is Security Month. You may have heard that there's been a few little security kerfuffles going on about the Salesforce world.
No,
um,
so what?
so we, kind of seizing on that, and also, it's funny because um, generally security doesn't really resonate as a topic. but because of like 6 months of steady news about this around Salesforce implementations, people are really focusing on it. It was really interesting. Dreamforce had a security keynote for the first time. That's never existed before.
Mm.
But I think they saw the need to address that. And so, yeah, we've got a whole bunch of like tailored content around security. We're going to have a security challenge where we basically set up a Salesforce org with some misconfigured security settings, and we're going to set people
Cool.
about going and finding that. We've got sort of a series on like how to secure your Salesforce org that's going to go out. Like we'll have weekly release or weekly publication of that series. So yeah, that should be a lot of fun. The technical team generally, we're also building our own sample app. So I'll give a little hint about that.
Mm.
So that's going to be fun. And I've got loads of stuff coming up. So I'm going to be speaking at DevOps Streaming at the end of November. So I've got to prep my talk. Actually, I'm going to do a workshop.
Cool.
The command line talk that I've given, I've sort of expanded it. I rebuilt it and kind of reworked it. The old one technically, as IP belongs to Salesforce because I did it as a Salesforce employee. And so
Mhm.
I went about the process of kind of reimagining how I would talk to people about the command line and built that talk. And I'm going to do a workshop at DevOps Streaming around that talk. And then for French Touch Streaming, I'm going to be doing my talk about parallel platform events. So there we go.
Cool. Yeah, I'm coming to French Touch Streaming, so I shall
Oh,
see.
sweet.
Are you talking in French or in English?
All the talks are in English. So I actually
That's
gave a talk on machine learning in French. It was one of the hardest like speaking things I've done in the last like probably 5 years because I just don't know any of the like terminology for machine learning. It was a challenge.
yeah.
Um,
I speak very little French very badly, so I'm glad I'll be able to come to your talk and enjoy it in English. Then that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
exciting couple of weeks ahead.
How about you? What do you got going on?
Well, I what have I got going? So I've got couple of products that I'm hoping to get wrapped up, some updates for, and just new releases on that. Um, I'm trying to do a bit of review of kind of some new content for the channel, so some new podcasts as well. So I've
Nice.
got those to plan and come out. And I'm also working. I've got a HubSpot app I'm working on.
Oh,
So
that's right. You
I've
mentioned
been
that.
yeah, it's been very interesting. It has made me both realize there are some things that I absolutely love about Salesforce and how it does things, and like miss wholeheartedly. So, a good example, the one I'm currently banging my head against, is HubSpot does not bulkify workflow calls. So, HubSpot has a workflow engine, and if you have a custom action, so you can't write actions on the platform, it's kind of like a webhook.
Right,
Um,
right.
if you have 1,000 people go through that workflow, it will then send you 1,000 requests in rapid succession. Um, I have got a pilot customer for my app who is looking at over a month sending somewhere near a large
A
number.
lot.
Let's just say a six figure number of like things, and so I am preparing for a 5 figure number at once, and you know need to just be able to scale up. But the good thing is it's what's really cool about it is I'm kind of working some of the muscle memory I had about like okay, how do we do message queuing and make this scale, and there's a difference between accepting the call and then also sending back a response later, and what that
Mhm.
what that like RPC flow is, and doing, I don't want to say proper technical architecture, but kind of proper technical architecture for a change.
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, so it's being quite cool getting up to speed with that and learning how other people have dealt with some of these things as well. So yeah, it's been interesting for sure to see how those things going to work.
Very, very cool. Oh, actually, one other
Cool.
thing occurred to me. Any day now, the developer survey, Salesforce Band developer survey should be out. So
Oh,
keep
cool.
an eye out
I
for
mean,
that
it's
too.
yes, for those who are well, definitely read it. I know the foreword is fantastic.
That's
Start it.
we only engage the best for those sorts of things. So
Yeah, it's obviously it's some really interesting results this year. So like I am looking forward to see. I've actually got a few having. So spoiler alert: I wrote the foreword in case that
yeah,
wasn't obvious to people. Which was nice to be able to kind of read it and like go through it because I also will say that I'm one of these people that with such surveys like I kind of normally am a bit of a dipper in them, as in like I'll kind of
hmm
scroll through. It's like you know, I'm not going to read every stat all the way through because
right.
some of them are not relevant to me. Like as you change roles, change positions, change careers, and whatnot. But obviously, right in the forward, it was really interesting, kind of deep diving in through all of them and seeing it. And yeah, I've got a couple of ideas of bits and pieces to write following it, but kind of views and thoughts. So yeah, hopefully people will enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it live.
Sweet.
Cool. Nice. And then there's also the third thingy video to come out soon as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
Integration
yeah,
video.
yeah. So we've got a bit of your content over the last few months. So yeah,
Yes. More Paul everywhere, all the time.
there we go.
Like there's the real horror story to end the show on. You can't go anywhere without seeing me. As well. Cool. Let's wrap it up then. Well, thank you very much, Pete, as ever, for joining me. Thank you, Ellie, who said hello, and for everyone else for joining us as well. Hope you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy Halloween if you're
Yeah.
celebrating it. And catch you all on the next one. Cheers,
Happy
everyone.
Halloween. Bye.